Welcome to The Truth in This Art. I am your host, Rob Lee, live and in effect. No, well, not live. This is pre-recorded. I want to welcome today's guest. I have the great privilege of speaking with artists living and working in D.C., mostly working in 2D materials, and loves printmaking, photography, graphic design, drawing, painting. I have a long list. It's going to keep going. Please welcome Christine Vineyard. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. I saw your IG and I saw work on there, and I was doing kind of my deep dive. It's like there's information out there, but then you're also mysterious. So shout out to that. I like that. Maybe work a little bit for it.
Thank you. Actually, I appreciate that. I don't like to be like I have all my information out there, so I take it as a compliment.
And the funny thing is, I'm a data analyst by day, so I was like, all right, I got to use my real skills now.
Oh, nice.
So before we get too deep into this podcast, this interview and all, I want to start off by offering up something I think that most people like to do, and it comes easy for them. Let you talk about yourself. So what is your story, and ultimately what is that early experience that you had with art that kind of got you where you're at now?
So I have been one of those people who, from my earliest memories, have always known what I wanted to do. I didn't know necessarily specifically, within art, what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something creative, something in visual arts. And I've known that my whole life. So some of my earliest memories are drawing and painting and doodling and stuff like that. And my parents, I was very fortunate to have parents that encouraged that. When you have a creative child, sometimes parents discourage that and put you on a math science track, because that's where the money is. Mm-hmm. So I was very fortunate to have parents who always made it very clear that they were we want you to be aware that you're probably not going to make any money, but we encourage you to still do this and follow your passion, So they were realistically encouraging me. So yeah, my earliest memories, art at school, my elementary school teacher, I still keep in touch. She was really influential, even though it was such a young age. I always did a lot of art camps and art classes, and anything art related I could do, I was doing it.
Love to hear that. So, and yeah, having that kind of early, not sure what you're going to do. If that's what you want to do, cool, go with it. I still have, I was going to be an illustrator. That's what I wanted to be. And I was really into comics. And I still have some of I'm 37, so the books are super old, but I still have some of these art books on how to draw comic book characters and things of that nature that I got in the early 90s. I was like, this is great. But I'm kind of tempted not to open it again because I feel like it's going to be like papyrus. It just turns into dust.
Yeah.
So with having so many interests, I said in the intro, the printmaking, photography, and so on, what type of art? What is that kind of unifying thing? What type of art do you enjoy most, and why?
So I do have a large, expansive list of different art things I do. That also goes back to my parents. They were listen, if you're going to do this, you're going to know everything. You're going to learn everything. You are going to max this out. So there is no way you can't get a job, So they made very sure that I tried everything I could within art. And it stuck. And then when I was in college, undergrad, I am an art teacher. That's my trade, I guess, my middle school art teacher here in DC. And so when I was in college, I started off as a drawing and painting major. Then I was a photography major, and I jumped around. So I got a lot of extra classes. If I had started with just education and gone art education start to finish without jumping around, I found out through my program that you just don't take as many art classes. You take basically a basic sculpture, and then that's it. And a basic painting, and then that's it. And because I jumped around so much, in addition to all my pre-K through 12 class stuff,
Sure.
I feel I was exposed to so many more different kinds of art and different levels of art. And so I became like fairly skillful and knowledgeable in a lot of things because I have this kind of different like navigation through school. And so it just piqued my interest in lots of different things. Yeah.
So when I think back, and it doesn't have to be your first, when I think back of being a kid, being in class, kind of rushing through a test so I can pull out my markers and start drawing X-Men characters. And I remember this damn teacher. I just remember this teacher that took my drawing and just threw it away. And I was just really tight about it. Do you have like a memory of like maybe one of your earliest drawings, first drawing or something like that comes to mind, or really early drawing and you're like, yeah, I could be good at this one day. I'll be really good at this one day.
Actually, yeah. So this is going to sound really stupid now because like I'm an adult and I can like do things, you know, with like my artistic skills. But I would have been in like maybe kindergarten or first grade. And you probably did this project too in art class where you cut out like circles that are either different colored pieces of paper or different colored fabric or something. And you make a caterpillar. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. It's not an amazing thing, but my caterpillar was in the art show. And I remember, and, you know, they put it in a frame, they make a big deal of it. They put your name up there, you know, you have a little, you know, apple cider toast or whatever, you know, like, and that's when I was like, oh, my caterpillar must have been pretty good, you know, like, and still to this day, it's like one of the very few things from that age, because who keeps things when you're 5, that I like still have, and I'm still oddly proud of, is it's like caterpillar, you know?
That's great. That's really cool to have you to have some of those things. You're really giving me the juice to go into my old art bag and check out some of my old stuff and say, hey, you know what? You might have to switch it. Get rid of this podcast stuff. You're no good at it. Back to the drawing.
I mean, it's fun. It's fun.
How'd you get into printmaking?
Printmaking, I got into, well, there's different kinds of printmaking. Mm-hmm. So most people do printmaking before they even are realizing they're doing printmaking. Like when you're a kid and you got like the styrofoam like trays from, you know, like the lunch trays from the cafeteria, and you draw into it with like a pencil, and then you like paint it and put paper and like make a stamp. That is printmaking. It's just that's like a lower level, you know, tier of it. Right. Sure. So when I was doing that kind of stuff in elementary school, I was already kind of fascinated with this idea of like making a stamp and making multiples. And I really like patterns and designs. And like, I'm a very like technical kind of type A artist. So I like steps. I like the technique. Like I like all that kind of stuff. So I was always kind of interested in printmaking. And then when I got to, high school is when I did my first linoleum printmaking, where you're actually like, which is the more traditional printmaking people would think of, where you're carving. Yeah. And like, if you are so lucky to, you know, have a printing press, you do that, or otherwise you would print by hand. So in high school is really when I got into that. And I took art classes all 4 years. I took literally every art class you could take. They were inventing other art classes for me to take because I ran out of them. Like I did AP art, I did everything. And so I got like very into my art discipline in high school. And then from there, it just like flourished. So college, I was already super into printmaking. So I made sure to take like an entire printmaking class devoted just to that. It's one of my favorite things that I teach with my kids now. Yeah. I get like so excited when we get to that point in the year when we can do it, because it's a hard thing and it's expensive and there's lots of steps. So it's not like a day one project, you know? Mm-hmm. So I get like really excited. I'm like, guys, printmaking is next week. Like I can't wait, you know? So I don't know. It's like something magical. This sounds so cheesy, but there's something magical about like pulling the paper off and like seeing what it's going to be, even though, you know, you've carved it, but when you print it, it's always like a little different. Yeah.
I might have someone that wants to talk to you about printmaking. I might have a person. We'll talk offline about it. I hate when jobs say that. So let's talk about your current body of work, and how would you describe it for those who are undipped and unfamiliar? Tell us about that.
So if you were to like take a quick scroll of my Instagram right now, which is where like most people are finding my art, it's mostly illustration based. And it's also heavily in what I call artivism. So it's like activism, but with art.
Yeah.
Like, and when I first started my Instagram, I was posting a lot more of like traditional medium stuff, which would be printmaking, watercolor, pen and ink, all that kind of stuff, which I still do. But honestly, like, I don't know how political you want to get, but when like the 2016 election happened, all of that, and obviously that the events that followed, I just felt like I needed to do more than just post like a print I had done of a forest or whatever, like. And so I kind of started getting into more of like this political satire kind of stuff, I guess. And then I got really into like Procreate and illustrations, like drawing like that, because it was really fast, and I could get it out quicker than like a hand-drawn watercolor pen and ink, whatever. So I kind of got into that, which is now kind of heavily more of what I post.
Sure.
But so I think sometimes people forget that like I do other things just because I don't post them as much. But every once in a while I'll throw in, like something else and people are like, oh, you do this too? But yeah, I mean, mostly on my Instagram right now, it's mostly like illustrations. Yeah. But I still do everything.
I'm a fan of political satire, and one of the things that's kind of interesting is this podcast is in some ways a response to things that previous regime were talking about, and Baltimore is filled with rats and so on. I was like, all right, I got to disprove that. You can't just let idiots just say things, and it's grown into. There are so many people out there who need or who would want or who could benefit from storytelling, could benefit from having that out there that often are overlooked and not really given their due. So that's really what it is. And it all kind of boiled down from someone taking a really weird shot at my city. And I was like, I refuse. And instead of using a bunch of 4-letter words and getting my blood pressure up, I was just like, let's just disprove it. Let's do that. Let's just show people are doing good stuff. And that's how you kind of poke holes into people's arguments, I think.
Yeah. And it's fun. It's funny. I mean, I don't know how long you've like been like with me here on this journey, but like Lauren Boebert trolls me. And so like, that's always fun. So, like it is fun to know like that I'm like getting under people's skin, because they're like, they take it so serious and I don't, because people can say some very nasty things. And the fact that like a sitting politician who is supposed to be like doing her job is actually spending her time trolling like this weird art teacher in DC. Like, it's just not a good look for her,
Yeah. I've seen just different people. It's like, why do I matter? I was like, who am I again? Like, I mean, I have a really high opinion of myself, but at the same time, in the big scheme of things, who am I? Why do you care?
Right.
Don't you have some legislation to not read or whatever?
Exactly. Like, I mean, obviously she's not doing her job, whether she's trolling me or not, but you could at least pretend, when you're openly trolling me, then you're clearly, so yeah, it's, that kind of stuff is fun for me. Or like when the trolls come in my comments and stuff and just like say like really mean things and you respond with like something snarky that just shows that you're unbothered, and then like they're more bothered.
It's like I teach kids. What are you doing?
I know. And sometimes I say that I'm like, I'm a middle school teacher. You're not going to win this. Like,
that's great. I'm sure it gets under their skin even more. That makes my day actually.
Yeah. Cause I'm like, I deal with like 12, 13, 14-year-olds, like whatever you bring me your best insult. I can take it,
So with that, like, I know that the school year just started up recently. What what does the average day like look like outside of the school year? What does the average day like look like, and how do you like manage that like sort of balance as, you know, that artist lifestyle while having all of the priorities that you have as a citizen, as a regular individual?
It's hard. I mean, I hustle a lot. Like, again, I don't know how much you know about my job specifically, but I teach at a school where it's a homeless status school. So my kids are food insecure and housing insecure.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of instability. So it's not like, I mean, you are mentioning Baltimore. My school is very much like The Wire, you know. I always use it as a reference because a lot of people have seen The Wire, and then I'm like, oh, well, that's my job. I'm pressed loosely, you know. So, yeah, it's a lot. For me, I'm fortunate that, you know, art therapy is a thing. It's real, and my class ends up sometimes being a lot of art therapy because the kids are experiencing so much. Whether you call it that or not, it is an outlet, you know. Maybe not in the official art therapy terms or whatever, but it is an emotional outlet for them to get these things out. So anyway, it's the same for me too. Me coming home from school and making my own art, you know, doing my own printmaking, drawing, creating, whatever it is, that is like how I kind of claim myself back, you know. I also like teach at the Hill Center, which is like a community center in DC. I teach adult classes, drawing and painting classes and printmaking. So that also is like an outlet for me to kind of like step away from that. I swim, I ride my bicycle. I don't have a car, so I ride my bicycle everywhere. You know, I have friends, you know, but you have to have like, you have to have a balance. I don't know. You just make it work. But art is my passion. It doesn't feel like work to me. So even during the school day, like teaching art, that even if I have a day where I don't have any time to make something for myself, me teaching art and still being involved in it through someone else is also, that still is validating for me as well.
Thank you. Yeah, it's, you know, at times when you're chasing the thing, and I work in the data side of academics and at Hopkins, and that's just kind of what my day job looks like. And yeah, it's, I think when you're trying to do kind of both of your things, it's like one has to fill the other one. So like if I need a new microphone, hey, job, I need that. But, you know, I'm using the resources I get from that. But if I need to be fulfilled creatively and from a passion standpoint, then I need to do some hours doing interviews and talking to interesting folks such as yourself. And I steal from y'all, by the way. I'll put it this way. When I realized this recently, when everything was shut down and COVIDed out and people weren't going anywhere, I was like, man, I feel like I'm doing more socializing because I was just doing so many interviews. I was like,
sure.
Hey, I know everyone. This is great. It's like you haven't left your house in 3 weeks. Oh, right. Yeah, but it is that balance that one is seeking, and it is hard. It is a challenge. And I think I've had a few folks on who are in this kind of like arts and in mental health sort of space or what have you, helping people have the resources that are needed and using art as the vehicle for it, and definitely seeing the value of it and the importance of it. So I've read something about dreams. I read dreams are an important thing for you. So how do your dreams inform your art making?
That's interesting. That's a very specific question. I don't even know where you would have found that. So you must have done some real deep diving.
I did.
Yeah, that's really funny. That's very hyper specific. When I was in undergrad, I actually did an entire like series on dreams. And I had kept like a dream journal, and I would like, first thing I did when I woke up, whether it be like the middle of the night, you got to go to the bathroom or whatever, or you waking up for the morning or whatever, I would like jot down like whatever I had dreamed, whatever I could remember. And sometimes, of course, it made sense, and more often than not, it didn't. But I was like always fascinated with dreams and how that connected to our life. And so, yeah, I did like a whole watercolor pen and ink series on that in undergrad, and then have always been fascinated with it since, because a lot of times whatever is happening in your everyday life, a lot of times that does show up in your dreams. That's when you sometimes like work through things, like, I mean, at least for me, and I've heard this from other people too, that it's not like so much as a premonition. I think that's a little heavy, but like, I don't know, your dreams and your everyday awake life, your conscious life, like are connected and tie into each other. So I just think that's really fascinating. And then I like trying to depict that and show that in my art sometimes. Yeah.
That is very fascinating, actually. And I think that it's because, I don't know, Freddy Krueger scares me. And this is because he's in your dreams. And it's just like, there is something, I think the reason why that works, there's something mysterious about dreams, and we try to interpret them and we try to make sense of them. And I think, like, on occasion, I like to have a notepad next to me, because I read that you have, like, whatever that is, it's your best stuff. Just get it down, and it's rare, but it has happened enough to be able to say it, that I might wake up in the middle of the night and just feel compelled to write something down real quick, or I'll wake up humming a tune or what have you. Because I'm one of those people, I have to sleep with some level of stimuli, not lights or anything, but it's either an audiobook, it's music, it's something, and it's helping stimulate something in the background. It's stimulating ideas. And I don't know, but I think just tapping into something, almost maybe some people talk about when they're doing like psychedelics or whatever, that they're tapping into something else that's already there, but just there is heightened. And I think dreaming is a version of that.
No, I think it's super interesting. And like Salvador Dali obviously was a surrealist artist and painted in this like dreamlike kind of state. And there's like this story that who knows if it's true or not, but I've always heard that he like went to sleep every night with like a big, like heavy, like kitchen. Have you heard this story?
The spoon? Yeah.
The spoon. And I don't know if it's true or not, but someone told me that story and it stuck with me. And even if it's not true, it still kind of makes sense. That, like that's when you're most creative. And so, yeah, I don't know if that's what like sparked I don't know how I got on dreams, but also my mom is a psychotherapist. So I'm sure maybe at some point there was a crossover. I don't know.
With that, you mentioned Dali. Are there any particular artists whose work that you like greatly admire or who have influenced like your work? I've really been deep diving into Austin Kleon and just stealing, like ideas and things of that sort. And, I think us artists are, gentlemen thieves and gentle whatever thieves or what have you. So tell me about any influences that you have and maybe like what you kind of get or admire from certain artists that are artists that you dig.
So I definitely like some of the classics. I mean, Picasso is definitely a favorite, even though I know people think he's like overdone or whatever. I just like the range of work that he does. Like most people think of Picasso and they just think like weird faces or something, but he's done like hyper realism. He's done everything. So like, a lot of people I feel like discount him because they think, like I said, of the weird faces and like, oh, he's not really an artist. And I'm like, oh, have a seat. You have no idea. So I do really like Picasso. As far as like a more like modern contemporary artist, I love Takashi Murakami. He's one of my favorites. I also like him a lot because he's a really great one to teach about with my kids, because he's an artist that more often than not, they actually know. They just don't know that they know, because he does all these collabs with like Drake and Pharrell and Billie Eilish. And so like when I show them like the Billie Eilish, like You Can See Me in a Crown video, for example, the music video, they all know the song and they've all seen the video. And I'm like, all right, so you already know who Murakami is, now let's attach a story and a name with this like thing you already know. So I really like him. I love colors. I love bright, vibrant things, happy stuff. So even though not all of his stuff is happy, I mean, he has the Hiroshima background and stuff. But I like him a lot. I love Basquiat. He's always been a favorite. I love Kara Walker with the silhouettes. That's what she's most famous for. But more recently, that kind of blew her up, I guess, would be like the Sphinx in New York that was made of sugar.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if you saw that or heard. Yeah. I like her a lot. I think her work is really, really powerful. And she's another one I always do with kids too, because at first glance, when you're just seeing the silhouettes, they're really beautiful and they're really like breathtaking. And you're just looking at like the, black on the white background and like how stunning it is. And so you almost don't really pay attention to the story at first. You just are like taken away by just the beauty of it. And then you start really kind of looking. And that's what I always do with my kids. I don't even tell them what it's about. And then they're just like, oh, it's so pretty. And then they're like, wait, is that person like hanging from a tree? Or, oh, wait, is that, and you kind of forget that there's a story. And then you start really paying attention and there's a whole story there. And then you're like, wait, this is like, there's levels to this,
Yeah.
So I really like Kara Walker a lot. Yeah, those are probably some of my favorites.
It's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good spot for us to kind of wrap on the formal, more technical interview, the real questions I like to call it, and dive right into some of these rapid fire questions. So I give you the preface that I give everyone. Don't overthink them, don't overthink them, don't overthink them. So here's the first one. If you could travel the world for free, what would be the first place you go?
Well, I do travel quite extensively. That's like next to art. That's my biggest passion. Let's see, where would I go? I mean, I really want to go to Fiji. I've never been to Fiji, Bali, Thailand, Philippines, Australia. I really want to go to Africa. I really want to go to South America. I don't know, everywhere. That's not a good question for me because I'm like a crazy traveler.
I dig it. Let's see. Recurring dream. What's a recurring dream for you?
Okay. Well, I haven't had it recently, but this is funny you ask, actually. This guy used to have a podcast, and he had me on one time to tell this story about my recurring dream. So there's already a podcast out there somewhere with a recurring dream of mine.
That's really funny, actually.
But yeah, I know, right? Because I had told him the story, and he was like, "That's ridiculous. You have to come on my podcast and tell the story." So it's actually, I don't think it's that ridiculous, but anyway. When I was younger, I had this recurring dream of a clown car. Like, I have a thing with clowns. And most people, when they're scared of something, it's because they had a bad experience. You're scared of dogs, you got bit by a dog, whatever. I've never had a bad experience with a clown. I just I'm terrified of them. So this clown car would come in the middle of the night, park. This is when I was a kid at my house. We had a 1-story like ranch house. My bedroom was in the front on the street. It would park in the street. They would come out of the car, and, in the circus, like in person, I understand the logistics. There's a hole in the ground. They keep, whatever. There's no hole in the street. Where are these clowns coming from? So they keep coming, like endless clowns coming out of the car, slither across the grass into the window. They take me away to the circus, and like the whole time they're like, doo, 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 doo. The music is playing, like it's so fucking creepy. Oh, sorry. I said, sorry. Am I not supposed to curse?
You're good. That's really funny.
And then they would put me back in their clown car, and I would be gone. And then I would be I don't know. I never know what happened after that. I never made it to the circus because that's when I would wake up in like a cold sweat, So it wasn't like an exciting dream. It wasn't really even that scary because I don't even know what happened. I never made it to the circus, but I would have that dream. I had that dream a lot for like years.
I think your psyche was telling you might start dating clowns. I don't know.
Well, I do. So not dress up clowns, like men that are clowns. Like, yeah.
That's great.
That has happened.
So here's the last one I got for you.
Okay.
Actually, I got two more. Favorite cake flavor?
Cake?
Yeah.
I do like cake, but cookies I'm really a cookie connoisseur.
I am as well.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll obliged cake. See, I really even like the icing more than the cake. Strawberry cake. I like strawberry cake.
That's legit. No, that's legit. I like a red velvet.
Red velvet is dope.
But when it comes to cookies, just to indulge me, what cookie you go with?
Snickerdoodle, obviously.
Okay, that's fair.
Or just like a classic chocolate chip. You know, there's nothing wrong with the classic chocolate chip, but I don't like cookies that are hard. So this is an unpopular opinion, but you know, like Tate's cookies are like really popular. Mm-hmm. They're like the really paper thin ones that you buy in a bag at the store. Everyone loves Tate's. I fucking hate them.
They're okay. I like a little doughiness to my cookie. I see, because I'm bougie, I'll order the Levain joints from like New York.
Those are good.
They are ridiculous, and I always get the chocolate chip walnut because that's the type of cookie I'm into. Give me nuts, so give me death, as they say. No, I don't think they say that actually at all.
Give you chocolate or give you death.
Yeah, see, boom. That's the saying, I guess.
I think so.
So this is the first I'll actually ask this. Do you have any questions for me as we wrap up? That's actually the last rapid fire question.
So I'm not an auditory learner. So I actually don't listen to podcasts because I just won't retain any information. If it's a podcast that like comes with a video, then like that's different because, you know, I can watch that. But if it's like just audio, I can't do that. So I'm always interested in people who are auditory learners and do things like this. Like how do you do it?
I think because I'm always multitasking. Okay. So, you know, my pitch is always I think if I'm watching a video or something, I'm like focused in that you have two of my senses. You have my visual, you have my ears. So it's like I'm kind of locked in. But if I can listen to something, like I'm not great at reading books per se, but I consume like audiobooks like voraciously, right? So that's one of the things I've learned. Like I can just absorb it and kind of retain it. And I feel like going back through a podcast, I can listen to it multiple times. I don't like rewatching movies. It's something about redoing the visual that just doesn't work for me. But I feel that there's more replay value with audio. That's why, and that's how I learn through it.
That's interesting. And I'm the opposite. I could rewatch movies until I'm blue in the face. But if you tell me to listen to something for hours, I'm going to be like, you're fucking with me, right?
Well, I guess you won't be listening to this podcast. No.
No, I mean, I will. But yeah, I mean, generally I don't like, and I like to FaceTime. I don't do like audio calls, you know, like same thing. So no, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. That's the teacher in me where I like always am fascinated by how other people learn and receive information, you know?
Absolutely. I'm always interested in like someone's process, what their day looks like, things of that nature. In what way does that impact the work that they're creating? Like not necessarily, hey, you did this piece of art, but really what is the thinking that went into you doing that piece of art? So yeah, you know, overlap there. So with that being said, I think we can wrap up there. I want to thank you for coming on this podcast, and two, I want to invite and encourage you to tell the fine folks where to check out your work. The floor is yours.
Yeah, you can find me on IG, Instagram, Lidflutters, LIDFLUTTERS. I'm also on TikTok. TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. I don't know, all the social media things. There's a link tree in my bio and my Instagram, so you can get all my information there.
So there you have it, folks. I want to again thank Christine Vineyard for coming on to the podcast. And I'm Rob Lee saying that there is art, education in and around your neck of the woods. You just got to look for it.